The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I'm not like the other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like that tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his chest and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. So this morning, I want to start off my sermon with you by sharing the story of Barton the Pharisee. Oh yes, I wore the mantle well once upon a time. When I was in college at UCF, or about maybe age 20, 21, I finally made it that commitment that I was going to graduate from UCF and go to seminary and go into the ministry. And at that time, I was a fundamentalist Baptist. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I better start making myself pure. Because God knows college, there's a lot of impurity going around. Thank goodness I had experienced some of that before I decided to become pure. But anyway, I continue to try to just be, morally right and be a good example for Jesus. And my dad noticed that I seemed to be home every weekend. And he asked me about it. He says, you're like 20, 21 years old. Why are you home with your mom and me on the weekends? Then I went about sharing with him that I was in this process of becoming holy and righteous, and that I could not, my friends, they went dancing at clubs, and some of them smoked, and some of them drank, and I didn't feel that being a good example for Jesus, I should be in those places. And then my father looked me square in the eye, and he said, you know what's going to happen? I said, what, Dad? He says, you're going to you're going to perfect yourself in total isolation. That wasn't what I was going for. The Pharisee in this parable was alone. It's one of the things that stood up to me. He was alone, and as he was in his righteous mode, he was praying by himself, God, I thank you that I'm not like all these other people. The robbers, and the evildoers, and even that tax collector over there. I fast twice a week and I give a tenth of everything I have. That was his prayer. The Pharisee was perfecting himself into total isolation. Well, what my dad said to me struck me kind of odd, and it planted a seed inside of me, but I still wasn't there yet. I was still on this quest of moral perfection. Now, I had two girl buddies that I went to college with. Back in the day when I went to UCF, it was a small little college that everybody commuted to. And it took about 45 minutes to get there from where I lived in Longwood. So Laura and Leela and I carpooled and was going to school and back. Good friends with both of them. Laura one evening shared a great idea she and Leela had. They said, we love to go to clubs, we love to go dancing, but we hate men hitting on us all the time. And they were both very attractive girls. And I said, yes. And she says, well, our idea is you come with us and you dance with us, and that way the guys will leave us alone. I didn't think I looked that menacing, but okay. And then I went about sharing with her. Well, I am going into ministry. And, now that I'm going to be a minister, I probably should not engage in, activities in nightclubs and drinking and dancing. And she looked at me like, women can look at you sometimes and they're totally disgusted and angry with you. Okay, men, settle down. You don't stop shaking, guys. Or a little PTSD going on there. I don't know. And she says, what? Are you too holy to go hang out with your friends? Are we like so sinners, such big sinners, you can't go out with us? And it struck me in my brain that, wait a minute, wait. I was on this moral perfection quest so that I could inspire people and I would help people to see, the purity of Jesus and how I embraced the purity of Jesus in my own life, and it wasn't happening. For she felt that I was holier than thou and they were not holy enough to hang out with me. And that's when things started to shift. Thank God. I did go dancing with Laura and Leo. We did it many times. And we had tequila sunrises, and we danced disco, because that's what was playing at the time, and we had a blast. When I was in seminary, and I actually started hearing and seeing and reading what the Bible actually said, rather than what my religion had taught me, I was able to make this claim for my own life. As I was watching this whole process of my trying to become morally perfect to becoming a real human being, I would rather be real than pious, is what I said to myself. And I decided at that time, I'm going to be real. Because I believe that being real is what God wants from us. And I believe that I can be more effective as a human being and sharing good news to people if they sense that I'm authentic about it, and rather than I'm somehow morally more perfect than everybody else. Perfection. Perfection is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? I mean, seriously. We usually say, Jesus is perfect. What do we mean by that? Well, he did everything God wanted him to do. Really? The Pharisees in the first century were the religious fundamentalists of Jesus' day. They were seen as perfection, moral and righteous perfection. They had, the Jewish religion at that time had 600 and what, David? 613 laws, and the Pharisees claimed that they obeyed every single one of them every single day. And people lifted them up as the shining example of what it means to be righteous before God. It was the religious leadership that looked at Jesus as not being perfect, but being a blasphemer. In fact, he was so appalling that they thought he deserved death. Why did they think that Jesus was appalling and a blasphemer? Because he ate and he drank with tax collectors, with prostitutes, and with sinners. He ate too much, drank too much, hung out with all the wrong people. Jesus was having a lot more fun in life than the Pharisees, I think. But you see, they saw him as not perfect. Jesus chose to be real. Jesus chose to go to those who are usually cast out and pushed aside. And he chose to meet them where they were in life without judgment. And because he embraced them for who they were, he was able to help lift them up. And I see this as a better example of what it means to be a human being created in the image of God. It's not about moral perfection. It is about being sure about who you are and where you are in this life, where you can be honest to ask for help, and whenever you see someone who is going through something similar, you can share your experience with them so that we're lifting each other up. We are meeting each other where we are. My favorite professor in seminary, Dr. Max Rogers, I remember in one of his classes, he mentioned the thing about Jesus being perfect. And of course, we were all, sitting there taking our notes and thinking, yes, of course, Jesus always obeyed the will of God. And then Dr. Rogers said, I can't think of anything more boring than perfection. What? Perfection is not the goal. In the story, you have the tax collector contrasted with the Pharisee. And he's beating his chest, won't even look up to heaven. He knows that he has sinned. He knows that he has missed the mark. That's what the word in Scripture means, hamartia. It's a word that was used in archery in the Greek, Koine Greek. There is, you used to have the circular thing, and you have the red, and then the white, and the bullseye is red, right? The idea in archery is to hit the bullseye. When you missed the target, then you were hamartia. You missed the mark. What happens with rule-based religions is that they make perfection about a moral code, that the people who are making the rules don't even follow the code, but they impose it upon others as a means of shame and guilt and manipulation. To miss the mark, to sin against God, is to not be your fullest self. That's what missing the mark is. But the tax collector was honest about it. And that's the contrast. He was able to go before God, and he was honest about, God, I missed the mark this week. Forgive me and give me the strength and the knowledge and all that I need to be able to hit closer to the mark that's next to me. That's the contrast. Whereas the Pharisee was so confident in his righteousness, he didn't ask God for anything. He didn't need anything from God because he had already reached perfection. I remember when I was in seminary, there was this wonderful theologian, Dr. Edward Schweizer, who was a guest professor for us for a semester. And he was a wonderful human being. He's a tiny little guy. And he was one of those guys that walked on his toes, you know? But he's just this unbounded energy. I learned so much from him. He was just, I just soaked everything he had to teach us, soaked it all in. And one day, it was his last lecture. And at the end of his lecture, someone in our classroom asked him this question. Dr. Schweizer, how would you compare preachers in Europe to preachers in America? Well, it's one of those times that I just wanted to, because you see, I know that he wasn't really inquiring. He already knew the answer to this question before he asked it. But Dr. Schweizer was too wise for this guy. And he said, oh, you preachers in America, oh, you're good. You're very, very good. I've been here for 3 weeks. And the first Sunday I went to church, and it was a large church in Raleigh. And I listened to the sermon, and the preacher had done his homework. He had done the exegesis on the text, and he knew the Greek and the Hebrew, and he brought it all together, and it was a perfect sermon. But when I walked out of that church, he says, I felt empty inside. The next week I went to another church, and once again it was a large church, and that preacher was charismatic. He was clever. As he started interpreting the text and teaching from it, he brought up things, oh, that's a very clever way he put that together, I thought. Oh, yeah, that was very, very good. It was engaging. But when I left the church that day, I felt empty inside. Last week, I went to a smaller church. And I listened to that preacher. Now, he was well prepared. And he had done his work. But as he was giving his sermon, at times it wasn't perfect. He would stumble over his words sometimes, or he wouldn't complete a sentence. Or but what I did is I watched this young man pour his heart and his soul out to those who were there listening. He gave everything that he had. He just let them see his whole complete self. He just opened himself up like a book and let them see his soul as he was sharing from a place of authenticity and genuineness. And he says, when I left the church that day, I said, I have experienced God today. God is not looking for perfection. Stop it. God is looking for consistency and honesty and authenticity. Many years later, I found myself back on that tempting route of perfection. I left the SBC, Southern Baptist Convention, in 1992, and I wanted to go into a career of counseling. And after being unemployed for 10 months, I got a job, counseling. It lasted for 3 months because they lost their funding. And now I'm unemployed again. Oh my God. So I submitted my resume to the Center for Drug-Free Living. And thank God a man named Ken Allison picked up my resume, just walking by the office and thought, huh. And he hired me. 2 years I worked there. 2 of the most foundational years of my life. Well, I always fancied myself as a good counselor. I was that guy in school that everybody came to talk to when they had troubles. And I thought, well, I'm good at this. This is what I want to do. And about 2 weeks into the job, I realized I'm way in over my head here. I do not have the skills to do this job. I needed the job. But I did not want my lack of skills to interfere with these men's the recovery of these men from addiction. So I went to go talk to Ken, and I shared my concern with Ken. I'm just like, I don't have it. I thought I had the chops, but I don't. Fully expecting that he would let me go. Then Ken said this to me, which was one of those pivotal points that started changing my life and helping me to become the bartender that I am today. He says, I did not hire you because of your skills. Everybody can learn the skills. I hired you because you genuinely care. And regardless of your skill level, the fact that you genuinely care for these men and their recovery is what they're going to pick up on. He says, Barton, there are people who go through school and they learn the skills and the words to say and how to put together the treatment plans perfectly, but they don't give a damn about the people they're counseling with. They have no empathy toward them whatsoever. They go through the motions. So you care. And for some of these young men, you will be the first person in their life who stopped long enough to genuinely care and listen to what it is they have to say. And that's when I realized, once again, that lesson. God is not looking for perfection, but God is looking for consistency. Here's what I have learned in my own experience in life, and also as I have counseled and coached others. You make progress, and you have revelations, and you, oh my God, yes, that's what it is. And then you realize, oh crap, I just did it all again. Oh wow, all that time, all that work is just wasted. But then you start learning from what you did, and now you're making, oh wow, okay, yes, I'm on it now. And then you go back and go, oh crap, I did it again. The key is that recovery and becoming whole and complete is not a linear thing. It's not like, oh, I start here and I will never ever make a mistake. That's not what we're looking for. It's, are you in general making progress? Some make progress faster than others, but it doesn't matter. Are you making progress? Are you making progress to become the human being that you need to be? It seems to me this parable is teaching us that God prefers authenticity over moral perfection. Look, here's the bottom line. Every one of us, as we've been on this journey we call life, have made healthy choices and we've made unhealthy choices. We've behaved honorably and gloriously, and there are other times we're so thankful that we didn't have smartphones to photograph the stupid stuff that we were doing. We had Polaroids. They really weren't a threat. The bottom line is this. We, as human beings, created in the image of the divine, have the capacity to do incredible evil. We have the capacity to be cruel and to be mean and to create incredible harm. We also have the capacity to be incredibly creative and loving and healing and inspirational. And the reality is that we live most of our life somewhere in between those extremes. But as I have been a student of the Gospels and a student of the teachings and the life of Jesus, I have learned that Jesus has never required from me moral perfection. But rather, Barton, are you on a consistent path to becoming whole, to become complete? The Greek word for salvation, sozo, to become whole, to become complete, to be well, to be liberated. Have you been on that path? And I can say, yes, I have. I still have work to do. But I am closer today than I was 30 years ago. Look, I feel like Jesus is saying, just be honest about it. When you screw up, just be honest about it. I screwed up. If you do something mean that hurts those around you, rather than trying to find some just cause to validate what you did, just say, you know what? That was insensitive and stupid of me, and I am so sorry. I will work hard to be better and to do better next time. Just own it. Whenever we have an opportunity to act compassionately, and we see somebody in need, and we have, you know when it happens. Everybody that's in need, we're not moved, but sometimes you see someone and there's like this energy right here, I need to help this person. And you listen to your intuition, and you reach out and you help them. Just be honest about it. Yeah, I choose to help this person right here and right now. You don't have to go about asking, what would Jesus do? By the time you go through that process, that religious process, what would Jesus do in this situation? You've already missed the opportunity. Listen to that still small voice in your heart, in your soul, in your mind. This person needs your help, and you're the one who can do it. And then follow through on it. Own it. I choose to help this person, regardless of what their need is. And this is what I think it means to become human. To become our best self. There are some days we're going to fail miserably, and there are other days that we're going to surprise ourselves and everyone around us. But the most important thing I want to convey to you today is this. Give it your best shot every day. Some days your best shot will be here, and then the next day your best shot might be here. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means life circumstances, you didn't rise to where you were the day before. And then don't make this the end goal. There may be other days after you've studied and you thought about, wow, that didn't work out so well. That wasn't my best self. And you learn from it, then you might shoot up here. The main thing is do your best. Be your best person every single day. It seems to me in my studies, God does not prefer, nor particularly honor, those of us who get the religious code, who memorize the religious rules, and then who obey the religious rules and wear those new rules as a mask to cover up the insecurities and insufficiencies in our soul. It seems to me that God just wants you to be real, to be authentic. Just be you, because who you are in the bad times and the good times and all that time in between is beautiful. It's glorious. It's a part of your experience. We learn from it. We grow. We take those decisions that we made once upon a time that, but then we can help somebody else who find themselves in that same situation. Have you ever found out that you have been in a situation where you shared someone your deepest, darkest secret, and you were afraid that they would never speak to you again? And only to find that they not only heard you, but they embraced you, said, I did something like that myself once upon a time. Be authentic. Be real. And when we are authentic and real, that's when we're the closest to ourselves, those around us, and the divine. All right, so those of you who have cars, that you have trunks full of goodies, this is the time for you to go. I don't know how that's a segue from what I just shared, but make it the most creative and best trunk possible, all right? And as a part of our benediction this morning, You don't need to wait for someone to go out and offer a formal blessing. The generous people in this congregation have provided food for everyone here, all the children out there, and because we genuinely love each other, we want everyone to have a good time. So God bless you. God bless the food. God bless all the work that went into today. And may we together continue not only to nurture ourselves with the abundance of life, but we nurture each other with authentic and genuine love. Go with peace and purpose. Amen.